World War II, it was a conflict that consumed the globe, a firestorm that raged for 6 long years, from 1939 to 1945. It's a story of unprecedented destruction, involving over 100 million people from more than 30 countries. But it's also a story of immense courage, sacrifice, and the enduring quest for peace. How did this global catastrophe begin, and what lessons can we draw from it today? Join us as we journey back in time to understand the war that shaped our modern world. It all started on September 1, 1939. Under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, Germany invaded Poland. This was not just a border dispute. It was a brazen act of aggression that shattered the fragile peace of Europe. In response, Great Britain and France, bound by treaty to protect Poland, declared war on Germany 2 days later. What began as a European conflict would soon spiral into a war of global proportions. The pieces were set, the lines were drawn, and the world held its breath as the conflict escalated across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean. As the world plunged into war, 2 major alliances formed, creating a stark division across the globe. On one side stood the Axis powers, a pact forged on ambition and authoritarian rule, primarily led by Germany, Italy, and Japan. On the other side were the Allied powers, a diverse coalition united by the common goal of resisting aggression. This group included Great Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and China. Later, a sleeping giant would be awakened, and the United States would join their ranks, tipping the scales of power and transforming the war into a truly global struggle for freedom. In the early stages of the war, Germany unleashed a terrifying new military tactic, the Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This strategy combined speed, surprise, and overwhelming force, using coordinated attacks by air and land to punch through enemy defenses and create chaos. Poland fell in a matter of weeks. Denmark and Norway were next. Then, in the spring of 1940, the German war machine rolled through Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, bypassing France's heavily fortified Maginot Line. By June 1940, Paris had fallen, a stunning blow that sent shockwaves across the world. With much of continental Europe under Nazi control, Great Britain stood defiantly alone, a beacon of resistance against the tide of tyranny. For 2 years, the United States had watched the war from afar, maintaining a policy of neutrality, though it supplied aid to the Allies. That all changed on a day that would live in infamy. On December 7, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The assault was devastating, sinking or damaging numerous ships and claiming over 2,400 American lives. The attack was intended to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet, but it had the opposite effect. It galvanized a shocked and enraged American public. The very next day, the United States officially declared war on Japan. And just a few days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S., pulling the nation fully into the global conflict. The war was no longer confined to Europe and Asia. It was now fought on every front imaginable, on land, at sea, and in the air. By 1942, the Axis powers seemed unstoppable, their influence stretching across the globe, but the tide was about to turn. The years 1942 and 1943 marked a series of critical victories for the Allies that shifted the momentum of the war. In the freezing, war-torn streets of Stalingrad, the Soviet Red Army mounted a heroic defense, eventually encircling and defeating the German Sixth Army in one of the bloodiest battles in human history. This victory on the Eastern Front was a devastating blow to Germany's war effort. Meanwhile, in the vast Pacific, the U.S. Navy scored a decisive victory against Japan at the Battle of Midway, sinking 4 of Japan's aircraft carriers and crippling its naval power. These monumental victories, one in the snows of Russia and the other on the waves of the Pacific, began the long, arduous process of pushing back the Axis forces. With the Axis on the defensive, the Allies prepared for their most ambitious operation yet: the liberation of Western Europe. The plan was codenamed Operation Overlord. On June 6, 1944, a day forever known as D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history was launched. Over 150,000 Allied soldiers from the United States, Britain, Canada, and other nations stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, under a hail of enemy fire. It was a day of incredible bravery and immense sacrifice. Despite facing heavily fortified German positions, the Allies established a foothold. This successful landing opened up a crucial second front in Europe, forcing Germany to fight on two sides. D-Day was the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany, marking the final chapter in the liberation of the European continent. The successful D-Day invasion opened the floodgates. Allied forces pushed relentlessly from the west, while the Soviet army advanced from the east, squeezing the German Reich from both sides. Cities fell, territories were liberated, and the German war machine crumbled. Inside Germany, the regime was in its final desperate throes. On April 30th, 1945, with Soviet troops closing in on his bunker in Berlin, Adolf Hitler took his own life. Just days later, on May 8, 1945, Germany officially surrendered. The war in Europe was over. But half a world away, the fight continued. Japan, though battered and isolated, refused to surrender. In a controversial and world-altering decision, the United States dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The unprecedented devastation finally forced Japan's hand. On September 2, 1945, Japan formally surrendered, and World War II came to a final, solemn end. The end of the war did not bring immediate celebration for all. The world was left to survey the ruins. The human cost was staggering, and estimated 70 to 85 million people had perished, the majority of them civilians. Entire cities, from London to Dresden to Tokyo, lay in rubble. Economies were shattered, and entire populations were displaced. The full horror of the Holocaust was revealed, a systematic genocide that forever stained the conscience of humanity. Yet from this immense tragedy, a new hope emerged. Determined to prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again, world leaders came together. In 1945, the United Nations was founded, an international organization dedicated to maintaining peace, security, and cooperation among nations. It was a promise born from the ashes of war, a commitment to a better future. World War II was more than just a series of battles. It was a profound turning point that redrew the map of the world and redefined the course of the 20th century. It led to the decline of old empires, the rise of two new superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, and the dawn of the nuclear age. The war's legacy is complex, a somber reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction, but also its incredible resilience and its enduring hope for peace. As the philosopher George Santayana wisely said, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Studying this history is not just about looking back. It's about understanding our present and safeguarding our future. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through one of history's most pivotal moments. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the stories that have shaped our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.